In a breaking news, Nagaland will go for polls on February 27. This was announced by the Chief Election Commissioner during the press conference held in New Delhi. Along with Nagaland, Meghalaya will go to polls on February 27, while Tripura on February 16. To discuss on this major development, I'll be joined by El Muli from Newsroom and reporter Aduna from Chumukedima. So hi Aduna, I'll come to you first. Can you hear me? Hello Aduna?
Hello. Yes.
Right, before we go into, since the dates have been announced, before we go into the announcement of the dates and more detailed information on that, since, as I mentioned, the dates, the elections are going to be held on February 27, we'd also want to know, Nagaland poll preparedness can be kiniga jaya setura. Let's start with that.
Okay. So, iti apni kwan is na alap agete Election Commission of India to Nagaland bi February 27 te kole jawle koya se to itu agete hoile bi ne election nimite itu mongan laga tenor assembly hoile bi February March te bottom hola se to itu nisna aji announce kuja to ekta nagan manum nimite bi ekta agebra itu kitia announce kurbo itu ruki taki se to ita February 27 te to announce kudi se preparedness to agete ita mongan jana nisna firstly itu ekta mugan itu insist kuri gina koi taka tu ekta demand kuri taka tu solution before election koi gina itu ai takisi to hoile bi mugan legislators itu assembly kan tu constitution aro election commission pra kita itu announce kurbo itu hisapte jawo koi gina itu ahala se to mugan itu naga solution hoile bi election agate itu dibo lage koi nabi aya se kintu itia announce kuri dise ta more than itia 1 month nisnae hoise to most likely to agede solution mangi kita election agede solution mangi taka laga demand hoile bi to agilo jabo kintu election itia announce kuri da to sob manu hoile bi Nagaland te hoile bi to election commission bra itu announce kuri da hisapte to sob manu bi jawle laga nisna hi ase itia
Ni koanishna itia muhan naga solution itu big issue ase election na agede solution mangi thaki aro ENPO khan bi tanga laga separate state mangi la issue ase itu lawi development kiniga jai ase itia takla
acha ENPO la koise kole tagan just recently hoilibi tagan itu Guwahati je jaina tagan meeting loina ahala ase kintu tagan laga meeting tagan la mujote ekta inconclusive tagise to ita tagala ENPO poila pra itu tagan insist kurigina separate statehood tagan ke frontier Nagaland nadisi bole tagan itu election process te bi tagan itu participate na kurbo koina bi koina ase to ita ta koile bi tagan laga stand tu itia ineka hi jaya se tagan itu tagan laga demand na kui diata tagan tu participate na kurbo koina kwan isna itia tak ajita koile bi tagan laga stand tu ase kintu aji itu election laga date tu announce kuri dise to itia tagan laga step hoilibi itu tagan khwa hisap te aro jawle asna na itia to latest development hoilibi aji bra latest khobor pala tu nai kintu tagan laga demand tu poila kinika ase itu laga stand te jase hoilibi contra in tagan laga itu civil society laga ENPO laga demand contradict chugina tagan itu enlu koina Eastern Naga legislative union tagan laga legislators kan tu government loyalty for election commission bra kinika dise tagan tu itu election process bi tu tagan tu participate kuribola lage koigena bi ase to tagan la mojote hoilibi tagan laga legislators aro tagan laga civil society mojote bi ekta tagan la tai jumola mojote hoilibi ekta itia juji hobole sikile mane itia election laga date to announce ku dise aro ENPO la stand to itia tak bi process te participate na kurbo koina ase to kinika obo time ahaile tagan laga stand hoile bi aro kinika change ko na itu to pichite alap pichite amon aro jani boitu do
Adonaru Naga solution laga khota krishi giludo monita announce kranishna February 27 the election no ase itu laga age de NNPGs kan ini government of India logode aru Naga solution laga opore talks kan igu schedule grina asna nai no to laga opore ki development ase aji tak
acha itia itu NNPGs noile bi itu moga naga political groups kan noile bi poila pra itu talk kurigna itu naga solution nimite takan itu sob mandu noile bi khota kurina ase to ekta bal cover to hoile NNPGs kan hoile bi itu agreed position sign kurina ase aro NNC and IM kan hoile bi takan itu framework agreement kurina ase final ink kuribo nimite itu rukha laga ase hoile bi mogan jana nisna FNR kan hoilibi takan itu reconciliation nimite group alak kan ke ekilote anina naga solution naga peace talk nimite itu anibole kuri takatu itu September accord joint accord pura pichite just recently last week hoilibi NNPGs aro NSCN IM to iki logo hat milai gina takan naga peace process nimite itu jabo ko gina itu reaffirm ko na bi takan itu declare kuina se to ita naga solution nimite bi ekta positive step ase kile mane NNPGs aro NSCN IM taijune main ase taijune government of India logote bi itu kota ko gina agreement hoilibi position agreed position hoilibi to sign kuina hala kintu itia laga picture hisapte muan ageti hoilibi to sop Naga tribals union Naga tribals ho kan hoilibi government of India ke itu memorandum hoilibi itu submit kuri kena itu Naga solution to election ageti itu kuri dile bal hobo itu demand kuina bi koi kena ase kintu itia February 27 the election hola ase to Naga solution to itia government of India laga hat de hobo kintu itia sai sap itu Naga solution to alop time aro din hobo nisna ase ground tagan itia kota kura isapte to tagan itu election naha giti bi aro round of talks to takhiu pare pilibi ta tak to latest development to itwi ase tagan itu just recently kota kuina ahala.
All right, Aduna, I'll get back to you. I'd request you to stay online. Now coming back to you, sir, L, I'd want to know, don't you think the election dates are being announced at a time when the government and community organizations are demanding a solution to the Naga political issue? So what is your view on that?
It's a constitutional tradition not to. Of course, there is a section of people in Nagaland who are demanding a separate state of their own. And of course, we have got the Naga political groups who are engaged in dialogue with the government of India in regard to bringing a solution to how to solve the Naga political issue. Of course, we have all that. But like I said earlier, elections in India are announced no matter what. Although those issues are going on, this is a constitutional process that has to be honored. And of course, we can still have, because when you talk of solutions, we are talking about an extra constitutional action that can be availed even after the elections, and even when there is already a government. It's a political will that have to be exercised. So we still have a government. If there should be a political solution, we can still have it now. We can still have it later. It won't have any effect on the electoral process. And the same with the demand for a separate state by the eastern regions of the state. They're demanding something, yes, but then this is also something that requires a constitutional tool to address, and it does not infringe on the electoral process. So although those issues are going on and still unresolved, the elections will go ahead. Atu.
So, let's just forget about the dates for a while, and I would want to know, will this election actually affect the Naga political issue, or even the current talks in the regard to the demand for separate state by the Eastern organizations?
Definitely not. Like I said before, it's a constitutional tool that is required to address all these demands. It could be independence for Nagaland, or it could be a solution for the Naga political issue. It could be a separate state, it could be an autonomous state that is carved out of Nagaland. But like I said, these are constitutional processes that involve decision-making organs of the parliament, and this can be addressed only if there is someone sitting there in the chair. You have to have elections first. I mean, technically speaking, you cannot talk to an empty chair. You need politicians first. You need ministers and legislatures to be filled up before you talk to anyone. So this is a constitutional tradition that no matter what, the elections will go ahead.
All right, El, I'll get back to you. Coming back to you, Adona. तो अदुना मिघन की भी क्या dates का announce कर पिछले scenario दो viewers kan गाने भी जाने वाले काने नागालैंड भी क्या political scenario दो किन्हीं का जाए से when it comes to elections की speculations जा से की होबले निश्चित expectations करना से इधु लोग explain को दिले बालवा
speculation खोले तो इतना speculation तो iman picture तो Nagaland इतना Nagaland scenario current scenario तो political parties laga to iman tu nai candidate laga candidates kun he candidate ulabo itu laga tu ase kintu yate ekta Nagaland tu clear picture political scenario to ekta clear picture ase clear picture ekta tu moga nita United Democratic Alliance itu coalition kurigna ita opposition tu nai to ita ekta clear picture do NDPP aro BJP tu takan itu seat sharing horu la tu itu confirm hoina takan itu clear kuri ase to 40 seats aro BJP 20 seats itu seat sharing tu kota kurigna ase to itia itu coalition itia Nagaland laga stand hisab te tu itu clear hoina jase hulibi main tu itia election laga kota koise gule itia main process to Eastern Nagaland laga district laga te ekta major challenges takiwo pare iti kile mane itia Eastern ENPO kando ita kando tu electoral process te participate nakuru goise to hosa prabi takan to participate gua nai ko lekini ka loi jawole ase na takan laga negotiation hoile bi takan laga state demand hoile bi kini ka loi jaina takan itu age electoral process tu loi jawole ase itu he ekta sawal ase hoile bi itia government laga stand government central aro yate NDPP laga stand sa substitute takan tu clear ase 60 by 40 by 20 itu jawole ase to mostly itia picture tu wele inaka coalition idega seat sharing laga stand the jai
Right, February 27 the issue ko lo kali Nagaland kla post te jawle noilwi Meghalaya bi ase aro Tripura bi February 16 the jawle ase post te to tangla political scenario to kini ase eta tak ki tadi ki speculation jase tadi all of details thagile nilate
acha ede political scenario takan laga itu tu moi exactly ko na paro hoile ile Tripura aro Meghalaya saise kole itu duta bi BJP alliance kurigina ahala se kintu Tripura te to mogan jana nisna Tripura te to BJP government ba itu chulai gina ase to 2018 te hoile bi BJP to Tripura te BJP to 33 seats jitigina takan itu sarkar government hoile bi itu chulai gina ase kintu yata takan laga mojote hoile bi state Tripura te mojote hoile bi ita Congress aro CPM to takan itu ekta milaina taikan tu milaina ita BJP logo itu election kurubule koi ase to itia Tripura laga government Tripura laga political parties BJP party nimite ekta itu striking ekta BJP nimite ekta challenging hobo kile mane Congress aro CPM takan milai gena itu BJP party logote itu khilibule koi ase kintu tate hoilebi Tribunal Congress kan hoilebi takan itu takan laga presence to tagan Tripura te dikhaule kosis kuri ase kintu tagan itu municipal pool te bi tagan kun bi jitibo parnai hoile bi tagan aro Tripura te bi Tribunal Congress kan bi kosis kuribole tagan itu this time hoile bi tagan kosis kuri ase to itia Tripura te asubule to BJP aro itu Congress aro CPM tagan he this time to juja juji kurubo nisna ase hoile bi ruling government ase to BJP kan to ekta tagan laga confidence to ta janai digina ase kile mane this time hoile bi tagan 2023 election the hoile bi BJP kan majority hobo koigina to ide aro itu Meghalaya te saise bole Meghalaya te to National People's Party to Comrade Sangma pra itu tai he itu BJP aro dusra party logo alliance kurigina ite ayase to will be just recently alop agate Chief Minister Comrade Sangma pra tagan to this time will be tagan to pre-pool alliance to itu iku nabanabo tagan single this time will be singly tagan naga National People's Party he tagan itu election hoile bi larai kuribo koina tagan declare kina se to overall 60 seats mojote hoile bi tagan 58 seats tagan NPP he itu tagan contest kuribo koina ase tate hoile bi itia jasal I mean last election 2018 de saise koile 2018 de to Congress kan bi bisi strong tagise tate 21 tagan seats jitina ahala kintu alop sa pichite inega ha pichite Congress kan to itia tagan to zero nisna hoye se NPP de kumba Tribunal Congress te inega join kurigina itia Congress laga chehra tu iman strong na hoye se kintu NPP Meghalaya laga current senior saise koile itia Tribunal Congress kan he itu ekta strong contender hobo nisna se kile mane Tribunal Congress te itu Mamta Banerjee hoile bi this time aro second time visit kuribula ase Meghalaya te to mostly NPP he this time hoile bi takan majority hobo nisna ase hoile bi Trimono Congress kan bi takan ito paratak takan to Meghalaya te bi takan la political party aro candidate hoile bi ani bole takan kosis korase aro takan bi koase ki takan la Trimono Congress kan hoile bi 60 constituency de takan bi itu contest kurubo koina ase to this time bisi Tripura te hoile bi yate Meghalaya te hoile bi aro yate Nagaland te hoile bi election to bisi bak this time to aro last time prabi this time aro jur jabo nisna ase
right adona apni ki offline na pata lage de mui last question ekta hodi bole mun jaw apni han reporting on kuna jai aro ami han jania nisna Nagaland do clean election lobole karne fight kuina ase to kiman dak clean election hole parole nishna ase this election bi ke kiman data ni do collect kuina ase ami han
clean election la to one jana nisna yete Nagaland especially Nagaland Baptist Church Council NBCC right to first step initiate when last election will be 2018 will be to campaign kuina ase will be bisi bak alop changes to one diki pa ase clean election laga process will be most ita tak will be ground reality to clean election laga tagla impact to iman jur hoina takhala to diki pana will be kosis kurigina aha to alop to improve to will be alop clean election process to alop to manu kan bi bujigina alop to conscious takigina to clean election la campaign bi positive impact to ase will be aro bisi bak mohan bi aro kosis kurigule la ase itu ekla noina election commission of India hoile bi takan itu free and fair election kuribo nimite takan hoile bi ekta ECI visual portal app bi banai na ase to takan bi itu clean election laga line de jaina ki manipulation hoile bi election kuratam de ineka manipulation kan malpractice kan kuise gole to mohan public kan hoile bi voters kan hoile bi apps te itu complaint kurubo paribo koina ase to alop changes to mohan itu clean election process te bi hoile bi this time hoile bi alop changes to dikhiu pare hoile bi iman effect hoina ineka changes to this time hoile bi alop to komjor hobo nisna ase.
Right. Thank you so much, Adona, for joining me today.
Yes, Atu.
And thank you for all the information. Now, coming back to in the newsroom, like we have, Adona and I have been discussing about the clean election now here. I would want to know if the ECI has any, can control corruption when it comes to election or in promoting clean election.
I remember a news report, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, where the story was about the Dimapur police confiscating a large amount of cash and of course alcohol from a private vehicle in Dimapur. So during the time there was a conversation where the role of the ECI and even the government in regard to how to make our elections more accountable, honest, and of course free for citizens came up. So this conversation led to one of the officials saying it's not so much for the ECI. The government of India, the Election Commission of India can do only so much, because whatever money or alcohol or arms that they confiscate during elections are based primarily on information that were given by sources. So the Election Commission cannot be everywhere at the same time, at the same place. So the Election Commission can only do so much in regard to how to make the elections free and fair, honest, and corruption free. What the government can do is that they can only act on specific information that is given by authorities. So if you go to the villages, you won't see ECI there, you won't see the government there. If you go to the corners of the city during election times or during electioneering, you won't see ECI there. So what is not seen is going going on in places that cannot be seen. So practically the role of the community leaderships and the citizens here are paramount, because what the ECI or the government of India or the police do not see is that all the engagements, all the transactions, all the conversations that is going on during elections are being done behind closed doors in the crannies and the corners of the cities and villages, where money is passed in secret, where lots of cash are passed around in suitcases in the dark of the night. So these are places the Election Commission of India and the center or the police, they cannot see, they cannot enter or intervene during those times. So I think while they have done their part and they will continue to do their part, the ECI cannot really take the message of clean election to the interior areas. And if there is any change in the society, it will be through education and of course a lot of inputs in the economic sector, because when we talk of corruption in the elections, we are basically talking about poor people, poor economies. And frankly, personally, I wouldn't really blame someone who is poor and a politician comes over and hands him money so that that person can vote for him. Then I really wouldn't blame that person for taking the money, because he needs that money. He is poor. I'm not justifying corruption, but at the end of the day, after all is said and done, it's not so much for the ECI, but it's for the community, for the church, and of course for the local governments to take charge of their economic personality, so that we really won't have to fall prey to money.
All right. Thank you all again. Before we end this newsroom, I'd want to run through some of the announcements that was made by the ECI today in the press conference held. So as mentioned, the poll dates for Nagaland and Meghalaya will be on February 27, and for Tripura it will be on February 16, and the date of counting for all of the 3 states will be on the 2nd of March. It was also mentioned that all the state had 60 assembly seats, and 2.28 lakh voters were new voters were added in all the 3 states. About 10,000 youths have registered in all the states. It was also mentioned that female voters have outnumbered male voters this time, and about 9,125 poll stations are set up in all the 3 states, and all polling stations will have CRPF for just our paramilitary forces to ensure peace and stability in all the elections. I think that's about all. Thank you so much. Keep watching Hornbill TV.